I feel good, man. I feel good being here, you know. That's why I had to just come, and that's why now that I'm here, I'm like, ooh, I'm definitely gonna recommend you guys, you know, to a lot of artists because they're gonna use this. It's cool. To me, I'm kind of like that. I'm in that way, you know. I'm in that way, kind of like always trying to make myself better, and then just work with myself too, you know. Like kind of like, you know, I think being a conscious individual, right? Oh yeah. So how I became a drummer was that I obviously started seeing backyard gigs, you know. I checked out my friend Pedro's band, you know, and then that band was called Homegrown, you know. They were jamming out on Alvin Brothers, you know. They were jamming out on like on classic rock, like playing Doors, Backdoor Man and stuff like that. So we're just tripping out on it because, you know, that was our favorite music, you know. And it's like these dudes are definitely playing the stuff, the covers that we like listening to, and they play it well, bro. You should see how they play it. They play it just well, bro. And it's like, you know, it just makes you think, you know, you're like, damn, you're looking at it live high, you know, for once in my lifetime, you know? And that's how it all began for me, bro. And then I just told my dad from that one day, I told my dad, hey man, you know, Dad, can you buy me a drum set? And then he said, yeah, we went to Brooklyn, over here in Brooklyn, you know, right there by Sister Chavez in Brooklyn. Yeah. And he bought it for me, and that's it. That's how it went down.
You transitioned into hip hop?
Yeah, that's another story because I ended up breaking up with the band, you know, over like 5 years. You know, we ended up, you know, just some creative differences, just to make a long story short.
Did you say to yourself, what made you say to yourself, you know, I can lay down lyrics. I can be a lyricist.
Man, you know what, man? I always had it with me. I definitely always had it with me because when I was a drummer, I was kind of like already, you know, getting influenced to writing my own little tunes and stuff, you know, just beginning to write a little bit, you know, and beginning to sing and stuff. And by me doing that, it ended up growing, you know, from there. I'm putting up with the band. They were like writing little riffs to it, little melodies and stuff.
To like your
that.
Lyrics?
Yeah, to my lyrics. And then it just went from there, you know, it just went from one thing to another thing, and then boom, the next thing you know, I'm singing behind I'm singing, playing drums, you know, at the same time.
At the same time, that's so impressive. That's good.
Like I had long hair, I was into like the Black Sabbath, the Jimi Hendrix and stuff like that, you know. So I don't know, it was like a very trippy, weird thing for me. It was like a weird change for me when I ended up breaking up with the band. It seemed like I transitioned, reinvented myself, and found myself with hip hop. That's weird. That's as weird as I can possibly tell you, man. You know, for real.
Now, how has it changed for you performing live now that you're not in a band and you're more of a solo artist, would you say?
Good question, bro. Yeah, you know what? It definitely has changed for me in a lot of ways, bro, because when I was with the band, it was definitely like depending on other band members, you know? It was like, oh man, if let's ask Pedro, let's ask John, let's ask Bobby, you know what I mean? And let's see if they're available to go tour or to go do something. And a lot of the time when they were not available, it was always an issue, you know what I mean? So a lot of the time now, being as an independent artist, I feel a little bit more in control of my own creativity, you know what I mean? So if I decide to go to Vegas, you know, I could get up, pack my shit, and go to Vegas, you know what I'm saying?
Coming out from behind the kit and being a front man on the mic, do you find it to be more thrilling?
Ooh, no, that's another good question, bro. Well, you know what? I always felt definitely that I was, I don't mean to sound selfish again, bro, but when I was a drummer, I always had like the light on me, you know? Because I was always like a crazy drummer, you know? I was always like doing, you know, solos and stuff like that. So I kind of like always had that attraction to me, you know? I don't know why, but I feel like now that I'm here, you know, doing the mic too and everything, it kind of like went from the back to the front, kind of, you know? Mm-hmm. So I kind of like carry myself now in a different way, to say, you know? As being the front, as being the image of my brand, you know? To say, oh, the image that I want to represent, you know? Mm-hmm. As being me, who I am as an artist.